Hey YouTubers, Semantic Mechanic here with my trusty assistant Tom.
Hi.
We're going to be doing videos on scopes, rifle scopes in particular, the Leupold VX series and some cheaper brands. And I haven't noticed any videos out there on this topic, so I decided to post one. This is going to be my very first video, so don't beat me up too bad in the comments. Okay, so what we have is one of these cheap bushnells on my Franken SKS here. And then we have Rifleman Series 3 to 9, VX1 3 to 9, and a VX2 3 to 9 on my other hunting rifles. Thing to note, I did some research trying to find out which glass is the best for the buck and all that sort of stuff. And it's like everything else. What you pay for is what you get. Now, the interesting thing to note is there's only a handful of glass manufacturers in the world. And virtually all glass comes from them. There's only about maybe 6 or 7 factories in the whole world that produce various forms of glass. So the glass that you get in this cheap $40 bushnell that comes on the Savage Axis series can be from the exact same factory, built on the exact same machines as a VX2 or VX6 even. It's all spec'd out by the scope manufacturers. And yes, Leupold outsources their glass to whoever they can get it from, whether it's Europe or whether it's in Asia, to meet their needs. Okay, so they are assembled and they're good quality scopes, but built in the USA, but doesn't necessarily mean the glass comes from the USA. In fact, I think there's only maybe one manufacturer left of glass in the US. So the things to note, you get what you pay for, but I found that the glass quality in these cheap bushnells is actually pretty good. Surprisingly, when I did a comparison low light tests between all three of these rifles, the glass in them is not bad, and even in low light conditions this cheap bushnell holds up pretty good. Against the VX2, you can see the VX2 has superior glass at nighttime. It sucks in a little bit more light, the image is a little more crisper, the colors are a little more vivid, but that's only at really dark, past twilight, past shootable light anyways. I've actually hunted with this rifle here, this SKS, and it works okay. The glass is actually not that bad. The one thing to note is the construction of these scopes isn't all that hot. We'll start out with this cheap bushnell, this 3 to 9, right? Mass-produced stuff comes on. That's good for 22 scope. I wouldn't recommend it on a serious hunting rifle. I've had friends that have used it because they cheaped out and they've regretted it. One case, one of my friends dropped his rifle in the snow and the thing fogged up almost immediately because it wasn't watertight. Another guy was out zeroing his rifle and the front objective lens fell out. So that's just the sort of things you're going to encounter with a $40 scope. But the ones that are put together well, this one here is, we probably put a couple hundred rounds through this SKS with this scope and it's held up and it seems to hold at 0 too, which is quite surprising. I thought it would shift, but it hasn't. It's actually been a pretty good scope on this rifle. But I've seen other ones that were junk and I've actually had to fix them or modify them so that they work better. Now with the Rifleman and the VX1 series, sale came up here and I was trying to figure out which one I was going to get. The price is fairly close, a little cheaper on the Rifleman scope. Right? The construction is fairly similar. It seems that there isn't that much of a difference between the VX1 and the Rifleman. They have the same warranties, of course, being Leupolds. They're built to the same toughness. They seem to hold their zeros well. They shoot well. The glass is pretty close from what I can see. I test them out with my old eyes, and I can't tell the difference, even in low light conditions or anything, between the VX1 and VX2. I think the VX2s, or sorry, the VX1s and the Riflemans. The only difference is the VX1s, you can get different reticle patterns. The Rifleman series here, according to the factory, is what you see is what you get. You can't switch up the reticles like you can in the VX1s here. So if you send those in, you can get a different reticle pattern. Although I'm sure if somebody messed with these scopes and you tried to, you could probably figure out how to do it yourself. The only other thing I think that could possibly be a difference, and it's hard to research it because scope manufacturers don't like to seem to give up a lot of details on their optics, but it seems like the lens coatings may be a little different between the two. There's a difference between fully coated and multi-coated. Fully coated lens, that could just be one coating. Better optics, they tend to have more coatings. They can have up to 6 coatings, and on the scopes themselves. And that's really the big difference in glass. A cheap glass like this may only have the outside of the lenses coated, and that's it. One coating, and the fully multi-coated, like on the VX2 series, all right, you know, have scratch-resistant coatings as well as the various metal oxides to break up glare and things like that. So that's actually the biggest difference in a scope's quality. Isn't necessarily the glass. Glass all comes from the same factories. So it's probably even from the same stock, but it's the lens coatings that make the biggest difference on optical quality on scopes. So between the VX1 and the Rifleman, there's very little difference. Maybe a little extra difference on the coating on these ones. I think there's it could have a multi-coating on the VX1 rather than just being fully coated on the Rifleman. But I can't tell the difference between my eyes. Right? I have a 2-to-7 power Rifleman on the 243, and it's performed flawlessly and no problems at all. Now between the VX1 and the VX2, as you can see, very similar. Again, the biggest difference you'll see on these scopes is the VX2 has a quick focus, which is pretty handy, so that you can make quick focal adjustments if you want, rather than the standard American style focus that you have on the VX1 and the Rifleman. It's kind of a pain to set up. The European style quick focus is kind of nice. Is it worth the extra $100? I guess it's up to the buyer. You'll notice it on the adjusters too. These ones have click style adjustment. You don't need to use a coin or anything. You can just move your fingers. You can feel the clicks, 1/4 inch MOA adjustments. So that's kind of handy. And compared to the VX1, where you have to use a coin to set the adjustment again. All right, and the Rifleman series, similar sort of thing. And they're friction type adjusters, right? So there's no solid clicks. Some people like it, some people don't. I haven't had a problem with them. I've never lost a zero. I usually put a piece of tape over them after I'm done, just to make sure they don't move. But as with any Leupold product, I've never ever lost a zero on any of my rifles. And I don't treat them nice. I beat them up in my truck and stuff like that. As for glass quality, between the VX1 and VX2, again, very close. But the VX2 does have a slight edge. At very low light conditions, you tend to get a little better color definition, bit crisper image, sucks in just a little bit more light. But I had to sit for probably 20 minutes fiddling with these scopes, looking at objects in the dark to see if I could notice any real difference. And you know, with my eyes, I suppose you had sensitive measuring instruments, you could get a better reading. But with my just through observing through them, the VX2 has a slight edge. So it's interesting to note that all these scopes are pretty decent quality when it comes to glass, right? But it's the reliability that I like to pay for. I've never had a problem with any of my Leupold series. They've always held up well in the field. I've never had one fog. You know, I never had one fall apart or anything like that. Unlike bushnells, I've had a lot of bad luck in the past, with the exception of this guy that I've got on the SKS. It seems to hold up pretty good. But I've had lots of them actually physically fall apart, spin themselves out, machining poor quality, so they slid in the mounts. Again, like I said, had an objective lens fall out. I had them where the scopes wouldn't zero or wouldn't hold a zero. The zero would wander. But the glass quality is okay. That's why I prefer to use these things on 22s, right? So if you have the, you know, a shot of a lifetime, you're not depending on a $40 scope. It doesn't matter if you miss a gopher, but it doesn't matter if you miss 5x5 whitetail or something, you know, like that if you're out hunting. So anyways, I'm going to do some more videos on this stuff. I wish I could actually put the camera phone here but through the lenses so you could see, but it doesn't really work out that way. I'll have to get an adapter. Maybe we can try that. But as far as I can tell, these things work pretty good. And that's my first video, YouTubers. So give me a thumbs up, give me a like, right? Yeah. Okay. That's right, Tom. Okay, YouTubers. We'll see you later. Bye.